Hello, I am going to replace the tubes, the stock tubes that came with my Tweed Deluxe amp. This one, it's a 5E3 amp. I bought it from China. So there is a separate video where I just got it, and you can watch it over here. I think the stock tubes are quite okay, but I would like to explore some other well-known brands. The stock tubes are a Chinese brand. I can't figure out what it is, but as I said, they are quite okay, and you can hear the sound of it. I will play it with the stock tubes first. I will then replace just the preamp tubes, and then I will also replace the power tubes. And from there I will replace and try out some preamp tubes. I had laying around a couple of different kinds here. I had some JJs, I had Tungsol, I had Tungsram. So I will try those, and I talked to my brother, and he has a nice collection of vintage, really old tubes. This one is a Mullard preamp tube from the 50s, so it's the holy grail. So I'm very excited to try this one out. There is Telefunken groove tubes. Yes, so it's quite a journey I will embark on with this. So if you're keen to join me, I'd be glad to share what I find. And what I've seen is other guys testing out tubes. A lot of them are using very much gain when they do so, and maybe just putting on a loop. Because if you use too much gain on the amp, it will more or less, it will compress the output, and you will not really hear the nuances that, especially when I play with a clean sound, I pick up more nuances and differences in each tube than when I play it with a gainy amp or an overdriven amp with using a pedal. And that might have to do that when you push it, you also compress the sound. So to me, that says that you will avoid the spikes or unwanted. You will avoid the frequencies that might differ from tube to tube. So I think it's a good exercise to when you do this to listen also with a clean amp and try out the sounds that you normally use with the amp, the pedals you use and stuff, because it will give you a better experience of how the tube sounds. It's very hard to convey that through a YouTube demo, and I'm not sure how audible it will be to pick up the differences. I guess having a good set of headphones will probably be the best choice, and I will do my best to record it in good quality, so that it's as neutral as possibly can be. Okay, so this is the amp now with the stock tubes in place. So let's play it, clean sound, using my ES335. bridge. Let's hear it with some overdrive. Yes, let's replace some tubes and see what it sounds like. Alright, I've replaced the preamp tube in V1 and V2. Bridge. And some overdrive. There is a difference. I feel like it's brighter in a way, and maybe my imagination, but I feel that it's not so bottom heavy, or is it sag it's called? It shouldn't be just the preamp tubes doing that, I guess, but it feels brighter in a way. I will also replace the power tubes. Yes, the power tubes are now replaced. I found out that on these 5E3 circuits, the power tubes are cathode biased, meaning they won't need to be, the amp won't need to be biased. And the bridge. Let's hear some overdrive. So there was something with the definition in the lower frequencies, especially when I plucked strings. There was kind of cardboardish in the sound. That seems to have vanished, and it's much more defined now. And also with the drive, I feel that the drive is more, also maybe the character of the tone is more defined. It's not so, especially in the lower frequencies area, it's cleared up a bit. All right, I'm now put the Mullard preamp tube in position V1. As I understand, for the 5E3 circuits, the V1 position is the preamp for the bright and also the normal channel. I'm into the bright channel. And the V2 position preamp is basically both a preamp tube and a phase inverter. So this is the clean sound. Overdrive! It sounds extremely good to me. I'm just wondering if it's also is louder. It's been a couple of days since I did the previous test. But I'm feeling it's breaking up a bit earlier now, and it appears to be louder. I can't tell for sure. Let's try with a little Sweet Honey overdrive. Yeah. There's definitely a difference here from the other tubes. Although there's been a couple of days since I last played it, but I can't remember that I had this kind of breakup with the other tubes that I used. So this is the clean sound again, and the volume is put at rather low. It's at 1.5 on the bright channel. So I can't play much louder in here. Let's hear what a Telefunken sounds like. Moving on, it's the Telefunken tube now in position V1 in the preamp section. Immediately it's very clean, doesn't break up at all, as I can hear. Let's push it with some overdrive. Sounds very good overdriven, but it's a bit, to my taste, too clean as it is now. Probably, if I could turn up the volume here, we would probably experience how it sounds in an optimal position of the amp. But so that might be better for a live application, but I'm not playing at low volume here. Overdrive. A bit too much overdrive, so I'll Okay, so this is the Philips Miniwatt ECC83. Let's hear it. It seems to have a bit more breakup than the Telefunken, but not as much as the Mullard. And also remember, we are pretty low on volume on the amp, although it sounds very loud here in the room. Let's push it with some overdrive. Yeah, it's quite fun to play this amp. Yeah, it's also a good tube, no doubt. Do I have a favorite yet? Not sure. General Electrics. This seems to have the higher output, but doesn't have that breakup. Well, a little. Overdrive. This is also a good tube, but as far as I can say, it's not my favorite, but it will do a fine job. I think it has a bit more mids to it. Yeah, it's cool. Okay, let's overdrive it again. Yep, General Electric's GT groove tubes. Also a quite warm tube, no harsh frequencies that sticks out. Sounds a bit more modern in a way. Okay, some overdrive. I'll try and add more tone. Could do it a bit more top end. Overdrive. Yeah, it's something I could just go with. It sounds very good. GT groove tubes there for you. There's one thing I've been wanting to do in this shootout, and that is to rip out the Tungsol preamp tube I have in my Dumble clone. So when I replaced the tubes, they came with this amp. For the Tungsol, it changed to the better for me. So I've now put a Tungsol preamp tube into that. So let's see what that gives us. Clean sound. There's a little breakup here in the clean area, especially on the bridge pickup. Overdrive. Can't be sure. This is a Tungsram that I had lying around. Clean sound. This is more into my territory. It's a bit warmer in tone. It doesn't have any harsh spikes or, and it breaks up pretty nice. So let's push it with some overdrive. I think this is one of the favorites so far. Last one is the RFT. Immediately it sounds louder to me, and there's a bit of a punch going on. Also, as it's pushing to the mid frequency, is a bit too much to my taste. Overdrive. I think it sounds better when it's overdriven. It's perhaps it compresses the sound more than, so takes away some of the harshness in some frequencies. Let's hear the clean sound again. Overdrive. I guess my ears must be worn out because now I tend to like it. They say after some seconds of playing with a different sound that you had, at least it's something I've heard, that you're no longer able to recognize the differences. So maybe I've just adapted to what it sounds like now. There's some harshness going on. That will be the last. Yes, so after playing all these different tubes, it's quite challenging to pick out a favorite. Of course, this one, the Mullard, this is from the 1950s. This, I experienced this one as a clear favorite. But there's a lot of very good preamp tubes in the collection here. So, but I have to go with one. So if I should pick one right now, it would be this Mullard tube. If you have the opportunity to try out preamp tubes, be sure to test also with the clean amp, because that's when I felt I could really pick up the differences in the tubes. When I pushed it to be overdriven or had some more gain on it, it compressed the sound, and it wasn't that easy to pick up the differences. So that's my advice. Oh, and I just ordered a brand new Mullard preamp tube. So I'm thinking that I would like to compare this old guy with modern Mullards to see what the differences is, because I've seen that in lots of forum posts on the internet that many say that the new ones really can't compare to this. I would guess that I really can't, but it would be interesting to have a side-by-side comparison. So that I'm hoping to do a video pretty soon about that. Okay, take care. Bye for now.